I am Ekua. I am a LinkedIn and career coach, and I'm super excited to be on the Online Prosperity Show. And we are going to be talking about how to succeed at failure and how to be, of course, your number one cheerleader.
Now, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, the number one place where coaches and consultants and also entrepreneurs come to get exclusive, real talk wisdom. And it's usually direct from the folks who have actually been through the trenches and have come out with a story to tell. I'm your host, Prosper Taru Benga. And today I've got a very exciting guest to showcase here. Now, Ekua, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm excited about this.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. If people really know who you are and the people you've met and the corridors you've walked in, they literally will be genuflecting in front of this video right now. But I think it's we'll leave that to their own discretion. Now, for those that are watching right now, thank you so much for tuning into the Online Prosperity Show. But I just wanted to ask you this. Have you ever failed so hard in business that you actually thought, that's it. I'm packing it all in. I'm going to go back to like a 9 to 5. Well, so many people, that becomes their story, and there's stats that say not a lot of businesses go past, the 3-year mark, but that doesn't, say anything about you as a person. It's just that business is hard, people. Let's not lie to each other. Well, if that's you, I want you to stick around because today's guest has been there, done that, and even got the Be Your Number One Cheerleader t-shirt to prove it. Okay, so I'm really excited about what we're going to dive into because joining me today is none other than Ekua, and she's a LinkedIn top voice, career and LinkedIn coach, speaker, branding expert, and let's not forget a woman who once cartwheeled her way through the London Marathon and also has shared a moment with Queen Elizabeth II. And I mean, how many people can you say they've actually hung out with both the Queen and Obama all at the same time? My 6 degrees of separation are just exploding right now, Hey, Obama, I'm with your girl here. So that's how we roll, just in case he's watching. He's one of your pips, right? So today we're going to dive into, how you actually become your own biggest fan, even if life or business just throws a few curveballs here and there. And if you've ever doubted yourself, I think you're going to want to stay until the end. And while you're here, I want you to tell me in the comments, who has been your biggest cheerleader so far? Has it been you or somebody else? Write their name or tag them in this video and just let them know that, thank you for being there for me. Okay. So, I mean, obviously, we could go on, and you're probably thinking, who is this pleb who's wasting my time? I spend time with royalty here and things of that nature. First of all, tell me, what does it mean to be your own cheerleader? I mean, what does it actually mean to you? And how did you make that your mission?
Thank you. Wow. Such a lovely introduction, first of all, before I actually say anything. Thank you. I really appreciate that. In fact, I'm going to start there. So you asked me the question about, what does it mean to be your number one cheerleader? And being able to take appreciation is one of the things that's actually part of this journey and concept. So one of the things that I noticed in my own journey and in the work that I do around confidence and building your brand is, you have to be assured of yourself. You have to know that when someone gives you a compliment, you just take it, you say thank you, you don't deflect. A lot of people deflect. And what does it mean to be a number one cheerleader? It is to know that it is not perfection that you're striving for. It is to know that it's about resilience, courage, growth and actually failure. It's actually about learning to succeed at failure, which is a value that I hold very strongly and very dear. And you might think, what does succeed to failure actually mean, right? That sounds like a thing that you can't do. But for me, it's a principle of entrepreneurship, of career, of your whole life, basically. And what it means is actually that failure is a stepping stone to success. Yes, failure does hurt and it does sting. Don't get me wrong. Both hands up for sure, right? But it is not the end. And I think the problem that a lot of us face is that we've been like wired and tuned to think that, once there's a failure, we're done, right? But actually, the most successful people fail over and over and over again. And that's what gets them the pounds, dollars, liras, whatever they're striving to do in building their empire.
Absolutely. And first of all, I love the energy, man. I know we're going to be in for a good episode, especially when the guest comes in with such enthusiasm. And also, I love the passion behind, you standing behind your statement, be your own cheerleader. And I kind of blame school for not really allowing people to take, compliments, as you have said, because half of the time it's team effort, or if you do something wrong in class, then you're to blame and you're the failure, and everything else comes along with that. Where does that? How do you sit with that sort of sentiment, and how do you feel about that?
I do agree that there is a strong, societal narrative about failure and what it means. And I think that, in schools and in society, there is still that sort of traditional concept, but I think it's shifting. But I think that's more in the entrepreneurial space. Like if you are surrounding yourself with more business type people, entrepreneurial people, or actually people who are in sports or athletics, because for them as well, you have to understand that failure is not the end, because you have to train, and you're not going to be like the best Formula One driver or the best sprinter or the best, boxer, when you start out. You're going to have to actually train and improve and fail. So I think that in those kind of arenas, like sports and entrepreneurship, like the narrative has changed, and it's all about actually, you've got to fail in order to succeed. But I think in society, I think it's still a slower, I guess, narrative shift. I think there is more sort of like percolating, but I wouldn't say it's the mainstay.
Absolutely. And I don't know if all these people have ever played video games. When you start with a video game, every level has its own little devils. And as you are going as your character, every little star or every little coin that you pick up, it makes your character a little bit bigger. Yes, you might be slayed by a dragon, but when you start, at least you now know where your starting point is from. And talking about starting points, I want to know where it all started off from. I mean, we may have started your journey with you having failed with the business, but tell us a little bit of a backstory as to how you ended up in that position.
Sure. So, when you start a business, you are passionate about that topic, that area, changing the world, making an impact, making lives easier, right? And the great thing about my story of failure is that my story was like a romantic story. Like the startup that I started with my husband, which ended up in failure, it started on Valentine's Day in 2018. We were on a date. We were at this tall, high-rise building in London called the Shard. We were sipping out prosecco. It was a great day. Like, and an idea was born. But only a year later, that startup and that vision, it failed. I burnt out. I thought the world was going to end, and I didn't want to leave my house. It was, really like, one of the most, I guess, difficult and challenging times in my life. Because although a business is just a business, like when you are a business owner, it feels like a baby, a relative, a pet, like whatever you think is something that you love. Like having a business fail is that deep. It is something that is catastrophic. And most people, when they have a business failure, there are two types of people. They either like go to the ground and they just go back to full-time work after licking their wounds, or they're like, okay, let me, learn from that. Let me actually know that, okay, clearly something didn't go as I expected, but actually there are some things that I can learn from this. And what I'm going to do now, next time, is do it with a team and find someone to do it with, get coaching, mentoring, whatever. And then they're like, actually, yeah, I'm going to go again because now I have that experience that of actually what failure is and how I can actually learn from that and move forward and spring forward.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for, opening us up to that part of your life. Now, obviously, love was in the air and, anything could have gone. Prosecco was flowing and things like that. But what was the idea?
Yes, so that startup was called Drinks Bar, as in drinks and robots. And the whole idea was to provide an on-demand drink service. So imagine like Uber Eats, but like basically an Uber for drinks, essentially. So the idea was like if you have like an office party or celebration, or you want to like commend or like reward your colleague, you would like basically order our drinks, our inclusive range of drinks. So we had alcoholic, non-alcoholic, and everything in between. But the reason that you'd come to us is because it was like craft drinks. It was drinks from smaller suppliers. Like we were basically their marketing team. We were basically the people that were putting them out there, who are basically getting them clients. And obviously they were getting a good price, like a wholesale price to do that. But that was essentially the startup that failed.
I can only imagine because you guys were probably enjoying the drink so much and you didn't even want to get up to get a refill, and you're like, I wonder if somebody could actually deliver this for us. And would that have been how it all started up and emanated?
Yeah, it's more like it was a plugin built into the popular work tool Slack. So essentially, it's like we all like some of us use that tool to talk to colleagues, to work together and collaborate. And sometimes you have social chat, and the idea was like let's take the idea of social chat further to actually having a plugin that allows you to actually order drinks.
Absolutely. I quite like that. Many people start maybe with a community around the drinks or things like that. Was that the route you took, or you just went to the creation of the actual plugin first?
Yeah, no, it's more about the creation of like the concept of like actually why can't we have on-demand drinks for like office celebrations?
Absolutely, absolutely. And most of the people that you would have spoken to, I mean, I want to get to the part where you thought it was actually a failure, because with 1 year, I don't think you exploded enough. But what made you pull the plug?
So whilst I've described, the main thesis of the idea, which was the on-demand drink service, I expanded into other areas, which is why it became unsustainable. So the other parts of the business were an event service. So essentially, I would hire out waiters to come to serve, the amazing drinks that we have on offer. And then because in the name it was drinks and a robot, I was like, do you know what? I think there's a drink serving robot out there. Let me go and find one. So I did actually do that research. There's an amazing company called Robots of London. They have such amazing technology and different robots. And the idea here was like for the corporate space to have an entertaining robot that could serve you drinks, right? And so they were the three parts of the business. And so the reason that the business sort of like failed is because I spread myself too thinly, because like there's three different arms, right? If I focus on the first arm of just like literally on demand drinks, it probably would have been okay. But because I was like, oh no, there's events and this and that, it became too much, and I wasn't able to have like the bandwidth to be able to actually get all of those things going. And actually, the reason it truly did fail was because it was before it's ahead of its time. Because if it had been like a few years later when we were in the COVID period, like it could have flown. But I didn't, as you said, give it enough time. But I think with all that I tried to do in that 1 year, it became too much. If I'd stayed with one, like the main idea, then potentially, even though it was earlier, it could have still grown. But I decided, you know what? I think that I'm done.
Absolutely. I mean, if somebody's listening right now, they would have probably come up with an idea and also had it come the concept and things like that. But I think had you given this time, like you said, this would have gotten a bit more room. But anyway, that's one of those things. I was watching once when Elon Musk was launching rockets into space, and every one of them was just coming down to a crash landing, but he would pick up all the debris and then take it back to the warehouse, and they'll reassemble it or reassess what went wrong, and they kept building on that and that. Do you still have the fuselage? of this
Do I
whole
still have the?
concept? Do you still have the carcass of the concept of?
Oh, yes, yes, of course. I mean, like, if I wanted to, like, restart that business, I could, but it's not something that I feel like I want to restart again, simply because, like, my interests and passions have changed. But, you know, who knows? I could decide to go back to it at some point. But for me, like, it is not where I think that I'm best able to serve. Like, I'm as a dyslexic person, like, I have a lot of creative ideas. And so I'm happy to, if someone else wants to take on that idea, like, get in touch. Who knows?
Absolutely,
I'll sell it to
absolutely.
you. I'll sell it to you.
I'll buy the stock that's in there and maybe a beer or two, and then we call it even. Yeah. But it's really interesting when somebody comes up with a concept and actually brings it to life, and then obviously the challenges and all of that stuff. Is it something that not the same idea, but would you do it again?
I'll probably do it again.
Hmm. Okay. And also, my question here is you started this business with your husband, and obviously, there's that whole thing about a lot of people who can't mix, family with business and things of that nature. How was that experience working with somebody that obviously is that close to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not for the faint-hearted. And, what I would say is that, the great thing about the partnership is that you already know that person, so that is good. But, working in a business together with your other half is a very different dynamic. And that's something that if you're going to do, you need to go in with your eyes open, and you need to, make sure that you have clear lines of communication and that you're basically on the same page. Because although we both had the idea, like I was the more creative part of it. And so, he was more practical. And in fact, he was actually, he's a data scientist and software engineer. And I asked him to actually build the thing for me, right? So that was his focus. And so obviously, we had creative differences because I was like, well, we can do this, this, and this. And I went off and did all these things. And some of those aspects he wasn't as happy about. And to be honest, though, because I was so passionate about this idea, sometimes I did, I'm going to be honest, like, let our relationship suffer because I was like, no, I can do this. Like, let me just figure out how to do this. And what if I forward ahead in this area or that area? And so on and so forth. And sometimes you can get blinded by your own, like, passion for the thing to realize actually the most important thing is not the business. As much as I find it hard to say that, it's actually the person who loves you. Because at the end of the day, your business can die, but the love that you have for your partner is the thing that's actually going to sustain you for each iteration of whatever you do in your life, whether it's your business or the next business or the next idea.
Absolutely. And obviously, with what has happened, have you guys healed and now everything is amicable?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Great stuff. I mean, obviously, then I would have thought, the robots went, the husband also took a turnaround, and that would have been wow. Okay. You really needed to be your own cheerleader there. So, what then happened pretty much after that when you decided that that was it? I'm going to pack it in?
yeah. So after that, there's a time of licking your wounds, wondering if you can ever like sort of come back from that. But actually, in that time, I reflected, and then I was like, well, let me go back to work for a bit and kind of like figure out what to do. And then after that, I was like, no, I still desire the entrepreneurial life. And actually, what I'm going to do is figure out how can I make that work. And before I went back into that, part of the work that I was doing was actually this whole thing about what does failure mean to me? Because that was a whole bruising and very devastating like experience. Starting something out of love and then getting like burnt out and depressed. Like it was a hard time, right? So I was like, if I'm going to do this again, I need to figure out how we're going to like deal with the inevitable because there will be failures in the journey. I cannot avoid that. So actually, what I need to do is, retune or redefine my relationship with failure because that if I want to do this entrepreneurial life, that's what I'm going to have to do, right? So, and part of the work was actually thinking about okay, what my failure stories. And in fact, I went so far as to actually develop a short course called Succeed at Failure. And I did some research and I put together like a little short program. I had a couple of ladies who were on it with me. In fact, our alumni is called SAF, Succeed at Failure. It's so funny, but I love those ladies. But the point that I'm making here is before I went back into the next idea, the whole failure piece was something that was important for me to tackle. And then I was like, what else do I actually really love? And it is actually about coaching. And through the work that I'd done in my professional life, I'd always been like a project manager and helping people to like, produce results. And I thought, actually, career coaching is the next step. And so that was my next step before I'm moving into the LinkedIn branding space.
Absolutely. And you see, most of this is just a mindset, really. I mean, if you just shift the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. And in this time, did you maybe, because I can see that shelf of books behind you there, had you started delving into maybe any personal development, or were you just, on this journey, just, trying to see what else will be the next move?
Yeah, no. So I really got into like self-help books. And I have like a couple of favorite books. So the classic book that I love, and people, in this day and age are not as, loving of that book, but I think it's one of the pivotal books. It's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. That is an amazing book. It's a classic book to me in positive psychology and, the growth mindset before the growth mindset was really here, in my humble opinion. And that whole book was really game changing for me because it was like, wow, you can really like shift how you think, believe, and act by reframing, how you see the world and seeing the world through a positive lens. And this whole concept of, seeing the world like Pollyanna, which is a classic American story of a girl who's very positive and vibrant, is something that most people are like, that's unrealistic, that's alien. Who can do that? That's foolishness.
Mm, mm,
Basically, you're never going to succeed in life if like if you're overly positive, overly like optimistic, or what they call toxic positivity. And that is not what this is about actually. Because if we think about like learning people like Stephen Covey, he has got a whole tome of a book, which I haven't actually read the whole book, but like the concept of win-win is the same thing that Susan Jeffers was saying in Feel Free to Do It Anyway. So I'm like, actually, there's a lot in the positive psychology field and domain that once you really get down with, you can actually start to rewire your mindset and be an active participant in shaping, your beliefs, your actions, and the way that you think. Because the way that you think in terms of like seeing solutions and possibilities is so game changing because you notice like when you haven't been doing that and you actually build that muscle because it's a muscle, you actually think, wow, the life that I was thinking before is such a different life because you don't see things the same way. And fundamentally, when you see things in a way that's about solutions and focus, problem solving, that's about creativity, that's about resilience, and about not trying to be perfect and not avoiding failure, it's game changing, Prophet. It's game changing.
I know, and I can feel that energy of game changing, oozing out of the screen right there. Now, Ikea, you've been a LinkedIn top voice, and that's huge. You know what I mean? In this day and age. But let's just get real for a moment. Did you ever feel maybe that voice, niggling voice inside your head, that would have said, "Who am I to be giving out this advice?" and things of that nature. How do people overcome things like that? Because yes, you can feel the fear and do it anyway, but there's always that little bit that goes, we know you. You didn't make drinks board work. Who are you to tell people what can work right now?
Well, this is say, your past is not your future. Your past is not your future. And so fundamentally, if you believe that, then you will know that there's always opportunity for you to actually go again, for you to actually climb the mountain, and for you to actually gain the success that you're striving for. But you have to fundamentally, again, believe and have that mindset shift. And in terms of like LinkedIn and becoming a top voice, it was actually a shock to me, the email that I got. In fact, I almost was like, this is fake. Because
Mm.
literally one day, a LinkedIn community manager emailed me and was like, "Oh, we see that you're doing great work in the career coaching space. We want you to contribute to this article." I was like, "Yeah, okay, great, cool." And it wasn't like, "Oh, you're going to be a top voice." That wasn't how it was framed. It was like, "Okay, contribute to this article." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And then he was like, "But I need to vet your article." And I was like, "Why did you vet my article?" And then he's like, "Oh, well, yeah. And by the way, you might be like, you might be getting a top voice." I was like, "Oh, okay, really cool. Okay, fine." And then, but the point here is that I never strive to actually become a top voice. The work that I was doing in the career coaching space was about actually education. It was about myth busting. It was about, a passion to the cause, because a lot of people in career feel stuck, right? And it's the mindset. As we're talking about, mindset is such a powerful thing, but not just mindset. It's mindset and action. It's a dream team. You want to have mindset, action, and the skills, right? So, for me, I was just doing that work naturally on LinkedIn. And even though, yes, at times I thought, who am I to be like giving people advice in their career, and who am I to, tell them that actually, if they retune their mind, if they actually take consistent action, and actually if they show up on LinkedIn, that is a place where they can actually like unlock their dreams in terms of promotions, in terms of like getting new jobs, in terms of actually side hustling and getting multiple streams of income. Like LinkedIn is an amazing place.
Absolutely. And you're still gracing that blue badge of honor. There was a string of people that were getting the brown badges, and there's a big distinction with that, right? What's the sort of distinction between the brown one and the blue one?
So with the blue ones, in fact, I think they actually closed that scheme because they realized that a lot of people, it wasn't effective. So essentially, that was for contributing to their AI generated articles. So what LinkedIn were trying to do, and they still are doing, is crowdsourcing information in different professional topics. So it could be career coaching, project management, doctor nursing, whatever, or personal branding. Essentially, what you do is you would submit your thoughts about the questions that they've asked, and be able to like contribute, like I guess it's almost like a Wikipedia on LinkedIn essentially, and you are basically providing like your insights and your expertise as to how you could I guess deal with some of the challenges that they talked about, or how you could actually achieve certain things, right? And so it's quite an easy system to game essentially. And at the time that they started it was like they said, oh, if you and here's the thing about what the system that they made was, they're like, if you do 3 contributions, then you'll get this community voice. But I think a lot of people were like, oh, okay, cool, and it's pretty easy, and people were like doing it, and that worked for them. But then they realized the contributions were not necessarily quality, and so it wasn't really working in the way that they anticipated. But here was the actual real kicker about that, because although they said 3 contributions, actually they were not consistent in applying that. And a lot of people reached out to me and were like, I've done like 2 contributions and they still have not given me the badge. What's going on, Ekua? I'm like, hey, I don't run the system, but and that's why in the end they closed it down, because there's too much inconsistency about how they were awarding the badges.
I think I saw a meme, with Oprah. They're saying, "You get a badge, you get a badge, everyone gets a badge," because that's how it sort of started to look like, and things like that. Now, I mean, with the way LinkedIn, like you've explained it, and the way you operate, there's a lot of people that come here, and there's a lot of voices that sort of come about. And how can somebody tell real from not real? Because so many of us usually get hoodwinked and get caught up in, just following some advice from people that seemingly, just because they have a voice, it might not be the right voice to follow, which then leads maybe to failure, and you're stuck by yourself with something that seemingly doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. And I would say that, be discerning. So, look at the kind of content that they are producing, look at whether they have, testimonials, and look at how people are engaging. And when they are actually responding to people, it doesn't seem genuine, doesn't seem, authentic, and like they want to help people, or does it seem a bit spammy, or they're trying to funnel people into their products and services. Now, don't get me wrong, every business owner on LinkedIn legitimately is there to sell and to provide a service, but doing it with integrity and doing it with I guess more of a sort of spammy mentality is very clear to see. And I know that sometimes it's hard to see, because sometimes actually, you're just so stuck in the problem, you're just looking to someone who's showing that they are, I guess, having the results that you want. And I think that you need to look at a range of different ways of experts showing how they, get from A to B, or their methodology and their, ways of working. But also, asking your community, do you recommend someone? Don't just do it yourself. There's a whole wealth of people who in your network who may have a suggestion for you.
Yeah, and I think asking people for help and just knowing the people to ask help from is something that is a learned or an acquired sort of skill. But from what I've seen, you've met some really incredible people. We spoke about Obama and the Queen. First of all, how did these moments maybe come about, and what have they done for you as a person?
So let's start with Obama. So, I mean, I am a passionate person who is actually very involved in civic participation. So that is people having their right to vote, people encouraging them to participate in democracy and elections. That's something that is a passion of mine, and that led me to be involved in the Obama campaign and take myself to America to apply to be an intern and work innovating rights organization. And then through my own, I guess, interest in other, like, I guess, voting rights issues, I was then able to go to the DNC in 2008 and, I mean, in the presence of Obama because of my campaigning zeal and my passion for helping people to basically have their right to vote. So that is how that thing above my head is the DNC program from 2008, and those buttons are like from that time. It's taking action, being a passionate advocate, not just, speaking about that stuff and putting this stuff out on social media, but actually going a step further and actually applying to be an intern, taking myself away for 6 months to go to America. I was a young person then, and have a whole experience, right? So one, you got to decide on your passion and your goal, take the action, and ask for help to do that stuff because you don't have to do it by yourself. In terms of the Queen, in my former life in the corporate space, I was a civil servant, and some of the times that I worked, administrations that I worked with were quite challenging. So in terms of the UK political system, it's normally like a two-party system, and we normally have one-party governments. But there was a time where we had a coalition government, and during that time we had as civil servants had to do a lot of work to prepare and make things work and all that stuff. And essentially, the Queen came down to meet civil servants to commend them for their actions, keeping our government working. Because it was an unusual time because we didn't normally operate like that. And then actually the first time I met the Queen was when I was tiny, and that was random because my dad was in the army, and we lived in America. And there was basically a prize, a draw, basically. So all the kids whose parent worked on this particular base put into a hat, and then they drew out a name. It was my name, and that's how I met the Queen the first time.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, I keep raving about this. 6 degrees of separation means right now, if I just hang around you a little bit more, we could actually be meeting maybe Trump or somebody else who's I'm not saying within their political affiliation, but I'm just saying people in the higher ups like that. But how have these sort of encounters really, really boosted your confidence? Because somebody might be watching you and saying, wait a minute, I cannot be my own cheerleader. I haven't met Obama. I don't have that kind of confidence. I don't speak the way that Ekua does. I don't have the courage that she actually has. Who am I to then be my own cheerleader?
Well, I would say that the first thing is you have to actually make the commitment to decide to believe in you, right? But you don't have to do it alone. What I would say is if you know that your confidence is low, or that's something that you want to develop and you want to build that muscle, there are many ways to do that. And I think the first thing is to decide that you want that. Excellent. That's number one tick. The second thing to do would be to surround yourself with the right kinds of people and communities, because I like to say that success is a team sport, right? So all of the things that I've done, I haven't done them by myself. Yes, so ultimately I took action, but I decided to actually do the thing, but also be like, well, actually, who else can help me? Who else might know how I can actually achieve this goal or this dream? We don't have to do things in isolation. And actually, one of the things in my book is about actually asking for help, because there's that whole narrative around asking for help being a sign of weakness, or asking for help being something that one mustn't do. But actually, that's a falsehood. You need to actually ask for help. And again, if you are successful, you have a coach or a mentor, or you actually put yourself in the right spaces and places in order for you to actually be around people who have like a growth mindset, who are actually thinking about possibility, opportunity, and courage and resilience. Because actually, if you think about it, like there's so many simple things that you can do to actually start to create the right environment, because environment is so important. Not just yourself, not just mentally, but also like in like your friendship groups, in your business groups. You need to make like audit and think about like, am I in the places that are people who are solutions focused, who are got growth mindset, who are courageous. Like, and if that's not you at the moment, then you might want to think, okay, how can I be in those spaces? What groups are there out there that are aligned with what I'm seeking to do? Let me like get into those groups. Let me go to their meetings. Let me read those books. Let me follow those people. But you have to first of all take the step to decide that you want different, and then make that plan, and know that it's not about being on by yourself, but it's about actually making the commitment to put yourself in the place and the spaces that will enable you to actually achieve those goals and dreams.
I like that because it's all about taking ownership. And also, there's an element of self awareness because once you know what you need to do, do, and have, then obviously you can start working towards that. But somebody might still be like, oh, okay, yes, you might have said, I need those spaces and I need those people. But have you maybe worked with someone who really embodied that sort of cheerleader spirit and has had a major transformation? I'm just really trying to see if this whole concept works on humans, because with the way things are going on these days, everybody else just really wants to make sure they're going to make a mistake and then they're not going to be failing.
So I mean, yes, I think it starts with you, but I think that for me, one of the people that I have really been like a personal leader apart from myself, obviously, is a business coach that I have, and so she has actually helped me to start to challenge my own story. Like, yes, I'm a positive person and I'm a growth mindset person, who likes to think of themselves as somebody who can improve. But also sometimes, I'm human. I don't always see my own blind spots. And sometimes you do need someone else to be like, actually, Ekua, you say that you want this, but are you actually really, taking the aligned action or taking or believing the right things in order for you to actually get those things?
Absolutely. I quite like that. And I also love that you've got the Get Paid to Speak network. Is this the sort of framework and network that you're creating an environment of people that are seeking the change that they don't see in the environment? Because it's full of social justice advocates, right? And change makers and also disruptors, things of that nature. What are you sort of hoping people will get out of this network?
Yeah, so I mean, we are definitely in a time and an age where I believe that more people need to use their voice, from diverse backgrounds, and there are people who are advocating for change, in whatever discipline or whatever field. But the challenge that they have is that not that they're not experts, because they are. It's the fact that they don't have to market and promote themselves. And the movement that I have founded is to help them to get skills in order to actually have the right mindset in order to talk about money, and also to know that actually doing good does not mean that you shouldn't get paid. Like, yes, for sure, you can do some pro stuff, absolutely. But if you stay doing pro stuff without having the confidence to actually move into a paid opportunity or positions, that is something that you need to tackle, because you got to eat, you got to pay bills, you got to support your family or whatever. And the movement is about supporting you to actually have the confidence to go from that speaker mindset to the paid speaker mindset, where you're able to talk about your speaker fees, and market and position yourself as a paid speaker using LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And what would be the best way that people can maybe get started on their journey? Or where can they find you? I know you keep referring to LinkedIn, but do you have any other spaces where people can go to that they can find you on the internet?
Yes, so LinkedIn is the main space that they can find me, but they can also find me on my website. That's beyond1cheerleader.com.
Absolutely. Now, Ikea, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience, and the fact that I've just spoken to somebody who's 6 degrees of separation from the Queen and Obama. I think I'm probably not gonna close my laptop today, just so that the energy, lingers on until the next thing. No, but there's always gonna be those people that are always gonna be doubting themselves. Do you have a go-to mantra, saying, statement, thing that you go to that just puts you back in the frame of, hey, I'm my own cheerleader, that people can adopt and use so that they too can feel the fear and do it anyway, like you said?
Yeah, so it is. Oh gosh, now you've asked me. I was thinking, what is my face?
Mm, mm.
Okay, so it's be bold, be brave, back yourself, and of course, be a number one cheerleader. Why not?
Oh, fantastic. This has been fantastic. But for those that are watching right now, and if you're listening and thinking, wow, I need to be my own cheerleader, but I don't know where to start, I want you to drop hashtag cheerleader in the comments. I know there's a song that's called cheerleader, and I think it's just gonna
Oh,
trigger
Omi, yeah, yeah.
algorithm, and I think people should actually sing to that, and
But
it's
you
just
know what? I'd actually encourage him to do Burner Boy and Plenty. It's Plenty. Burner
um,
Boy, Burner Boy. Yeah, that's a good one.
fantastic. And let's also show Ekua some love and get a conversation going. And if you've been secretly dreaming of maybe getting paid to speak, this is your moment to actually take that step. And wow, I think this has been a fantastic conversation. And even I'm all fired up. I actually think I'm my own cheerleader now. If I'm whatever dreams I've been sitting on, doubts, thinking that I'm not good enough, I would just slap that on my shoulder and say, "Yep, you're good enough. Keep going." So thank you so much for showing us and giving us permission to fail and fail often, because from what you've said, failure isn't final unless you actually let it be. And if you can dust yourself up, you literally can be your number one cheerleader. And yes, you can even get paid to speak your own truth, no matter what anybody else can say. So don't forget to check out www.beyournumber1cheerleader.com and join Akira's free global virtual speaker network, because I think your voice matters and it's time for you to get paid for it. And before you go, I encourage you to share this episode with one friend who just really needs a reminder to keep cheering on for themselves. There's a lot of our friends that are doing stuff out there and they've never had somebody cheering them on. Get them to know that you are their biggest cheerleader. And if you've received this message from somebody and they've shared this video with you, first of all, welcome. You have a cheerleader, and go and thank them, because a lot of us don't have people like that around. So be sure to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show so that you do not miss out on any of this insightful content. And who doesn't want that? Yeah, until next time, bye for now.